In this lesson, I'm going to introduce you to triangles, and then I'm also going to show you the different types of triangles that there are that are most commonly used in math. And how we're going to do this, we will start by introducing triangles. I'll try to explain to you what a triangle is or what triangles are. Then I'll show you the way that I tend to look at the techniques for identifying types of triangles, and then we'll just look at some types of triangles together. So a triangle is a closed shape that has three sides. And the reason why it's called a triangle, tri just means three. Three, then triangle. So you can see that there are three different angles here. So that is how it gets its name. It's a three-angled figure. And you have to pay attention to the fact that these sides must all be closed. Okay. So how do we identify triangles? We'll always look for the size of the angles and the sides. We want to check if the sides and the angles are the same size. That's very important, and then we'll use the information to tell the type of triangle that we have. So I'm going to go through a few types of triangles. So we have the equilateral triangle. Equilateral, which means that all sides are equal. All sides are equal in an equilateral triangle, and by extension, all the angles are also equal. So this is what we mean when we say an equilateral triangle. So just to recap, in an equilateral triangle, all sides are equal and all angles are equal. What about isosceles triangle? An isosceles triangle is one in which two of the three sides are the same size, and then two of the three angles are the same size. So this is what it would look like. So this indicates that two of these sides are equal and the third side is not. So you're going to have, by extension, you're going to have this right here, and then you have this right here. So we'll get into understanding why we do this for triangles. And I want you to remember that when you're looking at your isosceles triangle, you're always paying attention to the fact that two of the sides must be equal for you to have an isosceles triangle. What about a scalene triangle? A scalene triangle is one in which none of the sides is equal. None of the sides is equal, so we have it written this way. We can show that none of the sides is equal, and because none of the sides is equal, then that means that none of the angles also will be equal. Now we have a right triangle, and this one is based on the angle. In a right triangle, one of the angles formed is 90 degrees. That's this angle right here. And how do you know? It is the one that is the one where you have, this is what you call perpendicular. They are perpendicular, which means that when these two lines meet, they form 90 degrees at the point that they meet. In geometry, we'll call that the point of intersection. So with a right triangle, we have one angle must be 90 degrees. And we have different types of right triangles. We can never have an equilateral right triangle, but we can have a scalene right triangle, which means that all the three sides are unequal, so all the angles are unequal. We can also have, let me take note of that, so scalene right triangle. And so in this case, all the sides are unequal. Then we also have an isosceles right triangle. And in this case, we have two of these sides are equal. So this is going to be 45 degrees and 45 degrees. So this is going to be an isosceles right triangle. Now we have the obtuse triangle. So in the obtuse triangle, where the triangle is actually named so because one of these angles is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180 degrees. So in this case, you have this angle right here. You can see here that it's greater than 90 degrees. If you put your protractor here, or if you're able to trace this down right here, you can see that this is probably 90 degrees here, and then you have an angle that is greater than 90 degrees. So this is your obtuse triangle, simply because one of the angles is an obtuse angle. And finally, we have an acute triangle. In an acute triangle, all the angles are less than 90 degrees. You can see that here. We have an acute triangle here, and all the angles here are 90 degrees. There are several types of acute triangles. One I can tell you for sure is the equilateral triangle is always acute, because all angles are 60 degrees in an equilateral triangle. Now we also have an isosceles. We can have an isosceles triangle that is acute as well. And of course we have a scalene triangle that is acute. So these are the main types of triangles. Every other type of triangle is derived from all these triangles that we've talked about so far. So if you understand all of these triangles, you can really answer any questions about identifying triangles.